Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today we're going to explore ways you can predefine and control the behavior of Conga solutions for you and your end users by using Conga parameters. For today's agenda, we're going to define what a Conga Composer parameter is. We'll review the top 10 commonly used parameters. Then we'll demonstrate how these parameters affect the behavior of Conga Composer solutions. And then finally, we'll take some questions at the end. So for today's session, I'm going to assume that some of you have already started creating your first Conga Composer solutions. Parameters are settings that are added to the Composer URL that help control the behavior of Conga Composer solutions. Conga parameters can help you further streamline your Composer solutions, saving you even more time and allowing you and your end users to become more efficient. Parameters are incorporated into the Composer solutions by entering them into the button URL on a new line using an ampersand, the parameter name, equals, and then the value. I wanted to point out that on our support page, you have access to a knowledge base article called Index of Conga Composer Parameters. Here you will find all the Conga parameters and learn about their functionalities and how to apply them to your Conga Composer solutions. So here's a list of the parameters we're going to be covering today. For this example, we're going to be using parameters to pre-select a template, choose an output file of Adobe PDF, designate a unique file name, store the document in Google Drive, enable activity logging, and update fields within Salesforce and automate email options. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of my PowerPoint here and head over to Salesforce. So for today's session, I'm going to be working from a contact record. And before we get started, I just want to run a basic Conga Composer solution that does not have parameters applied to it. So I'm going to go ahead and select the Conga Composer button here. Here's our dialog box. And within here, you have a lot of different options in here that you can manually select. So you can select a template, you can choose an output file of Adobe PDF, you can enable save a copy, you can also enable activity logging and type in a subject, you can also create a follow update. But let's say that when you and your end users are running the Composer solution, you don't want to have to do these steps every single time, especially if you're sending out lots of letters or just whatever activity you might be doing within Conga Composer. You just want it to be a streamlined, fast, easy process to help you be more efficient. You can do that by using Conga parameters. So I'm going to show you a brief example of what we're going to be demoing today. So if we click on this Composer welcome letter, I've added a couple of parameters in here just to give you an idea. So before, we had to select a specific template. We had to select the Adobe PDF, do the checkbox here for enable activity logging, and type in a subject. But as you can see here, these things were already populated for me when I ran the solution. And that's because we have parameters set up behind this button. For today's session, I have a button called Conga Parameters. That's the button we're going to be working from today. So I'm going to go ahead and head over to Setup, and we'll go to Customize. We'll go to Contacts since we're working from a contact, and then we'll go to Buttons and Links. And then I'm going to select my Conga Parameters button here. So as you can see, I've got our Conga base URL here at the top. This should always be placed at the top of your Conga solutions. And then below, I have our parameters listed. And I would like to note that I've got the parameters listed by parameter type. So this first set of parameters are specifically for the template and output file options. The second set of parameters help us define where we want our documents to be stored. Then we've got our activity logging parameters grouped here. Then our master field is set groups to help us update fields in Salesforce are listed here. And then we have our email options here. So it's best to just keep all of the parameters grouped together. So when you're troubleshooting, it's a little bit easier to see kind of how you've got your solution set up and how it's functioning. So I'll go ahead and start with this first parameter, Ampersand Template Id. So as we mentioned earlier, the parameters are incorporated into the Composer solutions by entering them into the button URL. Then we have our ampersand, the parameter name, which is template ID, and then we'll populate this with a value. So the template ID parameter pre-selects a template to be used in the merge process. So to access this template ID, we're going to go ahead and navigate to the Conga Template Manager to grab a template ID. So I'm just going to go up here and I'm going to go ahead and head into our Conga templates. And I'm going to select a specific template I want to be used every time we run this solution. So I'm just going to select this PGA welcome letter. And what I need to do is just grab the template ID. I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and we'll head back to our button, and we'll go ahead and paste the template ID here. Great. So the next parameter I'd like to talk about is default PDF. This parameter overrides Composer's default behavior, which is to create the output document in the same file type as the template. So in our case today, we want our letter to be in a PDF document instead of a Word document. So we're going to give this parameter a value of 1 to enable the parameter to override the default behavior. So I'm going to go ahead and select 1 here, and that's telling Conga that we'd like the document to be a PDF. And then finally, you do have the option to create a unique file name. So the OFN parameter gives the output file a unique name, and the value of this parameter can be static text or merge fields. So I'll go ahead and type in welcome letter 4, and then we'll go ahead and insert a field here. We'll just use the first name. So notice how I was using plus signs here. That's to indicate that there should be a space there. We are working in a live URL, so if you type in a physical space, it will cause an error in your solution. So we use the plus signs to indicate spacing. All right, now that we've added our first set of parameters here, let's go ahead and do a quick save, and let's go test it out in our solution. All right, our quick save was successful, so let's go ahead and head back over to our contact record. I'm just going to do a quick refresh since we're making some changes behind our button here. And I'm going to go ahead and select our Conga Parameters button here. So here's our Conga dialog box. All right, so now you can see that Conga pre-selected our template that we specified with the template ID. And it's kind of cool when I'm hovering over this, you can just see a quick brief description that Conga is pulling up for you. So it's telling you the template ID, template name, the output file type, when it was last modified. So that's kind of helpful if you have multiple templates stored in here. And then in addition to that, it's pre-selected our Adobe PDF option here. So great, so we didn't have to select those when we ran our solution this time. It was pre-selected for us by using those parameters. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just merge and download. We'll generate our PDF document. All right, great. We can see it's an Adobe PDF option, and here is our letter. Great job. All right, let's go ahead and head back to our button and review some more parameters. All right, our next set of parameters will help us define a location of where we want to store our documents. So what I'm going to be showing you guys is actually how we can store Conga Composer documents in Google Drive. Conga Composer now integrates with Google Drive, making it possible to create and deploy Conga Composer solutions completely in the cloud. So it's very convenient. You can create Google Docs, Sheets, Google Slides. You can store any generated output files such as Microsoft Office, PDF, or Google Docs, Slides, and Sheets directly into Google Drive. So it's pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to show you guys that here in a second. So in order to start this process, we first must tell Conga that we want to turn on these features. And to do so, we have to use the parameter ampersand SC0, and we're going to set that value equal to 1. So this functionality enables the save a copy feature. So we're just telling Conga that we're getting ready to save a copy. And you don't want to leave any spaces. There's a space there, but you want to make sure it's right after the equal sign, just like that. All right. And then next, we want to use the parameter SC1. So SC1 defines the location of where the output file will be stored. So for us, we're going to go ahead and choose Google because I want to show you guys that integration. But you do have the option to store documents in attachments, content, chatter, Spring CM, and then I'm going to show you Google Drive. So that's pretty cool and convenient. All right, so before we jump into Google Visible, I just want to show you guys just the functionality of storing a document in Google Drive. So we're going to go up here and do a quick save. And our quick save was successful, and I'm going to head over to Rory's contact record. And again, I just want to refresh here since we are making some changes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and run our Conga Parameters button here. So in addition to our template being pre-selected for us, our output file being selected to Adobe PDF, you can now see our Save a Copy feature has been enabled for us, and it's chosen the location for Google Drive as we asked it to. And in this drop-down menu, you can see the other locations that I was explaining earlier, but because we entered the parameter SC1 equals Google, it knew to select Google Drive automatically for us. All right, let's go ahead and test out the Google Drive feature. So I'm going to select Merge and Download. And so Conga's accessing that brief window that you saw. Conga is accessing my Google Drive account. When you're first setting up this solution, Conga will ask you for permission to access your Google Drive account. All right, now that we've selected our Merge and Download, we can see that it created our PDF here, but now let's go ahead and review my Google Drive account. So I'm going to pull over my Google Drive screen here. All right, so here's my Google Drive account. And if you don't have a specific file path created, Conga by default will create a folder called Conga Documents. And then Conga knows to store the output file in that specific folder, so it's easy for you to find. And here is our PDF letter that we told Conga to store into our Google Drive instance here. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and head back to Salesforce. I'm just going to move my screen over, and let's go ahead and test out this Google Visible parameter here. The Google Visible parameter actually creates a Google Doc. So rather than generating a Word document or a PDF document, it's actually going to create that output file into a Google Doc for us. So in order to do this, we have to turn that parameter on, and turning it on means we'll set this equal to 1. All right, we'll go ahead and do a quick save here, and we'll go back to our record, refresh, run our Conga Parameters button here. All right, so now you can see in the Save a Copy feature, it selected Google Docs. And then below here, you'll notice our button here now says Merge in Google Docs. So let's go ahead and run this and watch it create a Google Doc for us. So Conga is gathering all the data from the master object here, and it's going to generate a Google Doc for us. All right, there you have it. So right on the fly like that, it just went ahead and created that Google Doc for us by using that specific parameter. All right, that's pretty cool. So you now have the option to use Conga and generate Google Docs and store documents within Google Drive, allowing it to be easy for you and your end users. One thing I did want to point out about using the Google Visible parameter is when you're getting ready to run this for the first time, just be sure you do have Google Drive installed. So that way when you are running the solution, it's just a smoother process. When you're doing it for the first time, Conga is going to ask for access to your Google Drive account. And you only have to allow it once. And then from there, it's going to go ahead and just, as you guys saw earlier, it's going to store your letters or create the Google Doc on the fly like we just saw here. But just as a reminder, be sure you have that Google Drive option set up on your Google Drive account. All right, let's go ahead and go back to our button and review some more parameters. So the next set of parameters I want to talk about are the activity logging parameters. So you can log activities in Salesforce when you're running your Conga Composer solutions. So to enable activity logging, we want to use the AC0 parameter, and we're going to set that equal to 1. So we're going to turn on that activity logging functionality, telling Conga that when we run this solution, we want an activity to be logged in Salesforce. And the next option we have is Ampersand AC1. So this allows us to set the subject for the activity that we're going to be logging. So in our case today, we can just call it sent welcome letter to, and then again, I'll just use an insert merge field. We'll use first name. So we've told Conga, all right, when we run this solution, we want the activity to be logged that we sent this welcome letter to our contact. All right, let's go ahead and test that out. So we'll do another quick save. All right, now that we've added our activity logging parameters, let's go ahead and test this out. So I'm going to refresh our contact record here. We'll go ahead and run our Conga Parameters button here. And so in addition to our template being pre-selected, our output file being selected as Adobe PDF, our option to go create a Google Doc, you'll now see that our activity logging section has been enabled for us. And then the subject for the activity we want to log has been populated for us. So that's all possible by using the activity logging parameters, the AC0 and AC1. So let's go ahead and just run a full solution here. So Conga needs to run the full solution to communicate to Salesforce that we want to go ahead and log the activity here. So it's going to generate that Google Doc for us. Okay, great. And then we'll refresh the record we're on, and we'll scroll down to our activity history here. And you can see our activity with the subject here, sent welcome letter to Rory. So this is a really great feature. It's a good time saver, especially if you don't want your end users to have to try to remember that every time they run the solution to log that activity that they sent the welcome letter. So this is just a helpful time saving option for you when you're using Conga Composer. All right, great. So let's head back to our URL here and further explore some more parameters. So the next set of parameters I want to talk about are parameters that help us update fields in Salesforce. So again, just like our features above, we need to turn on this functionality. So by using the parameter Ampersand UF0, by setting that equal to 1, we're going to tell Conga that we want to enable that functionality to update fields in Salesforce. And so the parameters that help us update fields in Salesforce are called master field to set parameters. So that's what that MFTS stands for. Now that we have turned on the functionality to update fields in Salesforce, now we need to specify the field that we want Conga to update for us. So I would like to have Conga update this member status field for us every time we run our solution. So to do this, we need to grab the API field name. So I'm going to go to Setup, and I'll go to Customize, Contacts, and then Fields. And the field that I created the field I want to update, so it's a custom field here, and it's called Member Status. So I'm just going to copy that API field name here, and we'll go back to our button and paste that there. All right. So now that we've told Conga what field it is we want to update, now we just need to specify what it is we want Conga to update the field with. So if we go back here, you'll see I have got a pick list or a little drop down here, and I want to have Conga populate this field with new rather than me or my end users having to manually do that when they run the solution. So we'll go ahead and type in new here. All right, let's do another quick save. We'll go back to our contact record here. I'm just going to refresh again, and then we'll run our Conga parameters here. So again, we just want to run our full solution so Conga understands the instructions that we gave it to update these fields for us. So I'm just going to merge it, and it's going to create that Google Doc for us again. All right. And I'm going to do a quick refresh. And now you can see that our member status field has been populated with new. So that's a cool feature as well, another time saver, and it helps your end users to keep moving along efficiently without having to try to remember all the specific steps or things needed to be logged or updated. Conga parameters allowed us to be able to update this field, so that's a really cool feature. So there's one more set of parameters that I want to talk about today, and I have them actually listed up here in my description. So I'm going to copy those and add them down here. So the next set of parameters I want to talk about are our email parameters. So another way to streamline your solution if you're going to send out an email is to set up a specific contact ID that you're going to send the email to, and also set up a specific template ID that you want to be chosen every time you run this solution. So the email to ID is pretty simple. By default, Conga is going to grab the primary contact on the object you're running the solution from and auto-populate that email to go to that contact. Or you can also add the contact ID here, or add in another ID of where you want the email to go as well. So I'm just going to add in a basic contact. I'm just going to grab Rory's contact ID here from his record, and I'll just plug that in. And then I want to specify a specific email template for Conga to use every time our end users generate and send off this email. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and access my Conga email templates. So I'm going to scroll to my top bar here and select Conga email templates. And again, I'm just going to select this specific template here. And all I want to do is grab the template ID here, copy that, and paste it back into our button here. So now that we want to email our documents, instead of storing them into Google Drive, I'm just going to turn off these parameters so that Conga will know to automatically select the email option for us without us having to manually populate that. So I'm just clearing those out because we don't need to use them anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and save. And I'm going to go back to Rory's contact record here, just do a quick refresh, and run our solution here. Alright, so far today we pre-selected a template by using parameters. We used a parameter to have the output option be Adobe PDF. We also earlier enabled Save a Copy feature to Google Drive. We turned on our activity logging features. So now let's go ahead and just do our email option here. So now let's go ahead and merge an email. So instead of generating a document here, Conga is just going to pull up our Conga template here. Here's our specific template we told it to grab. It's going to Rory, and you can see attached we've got our PDF letter here for our member. Alright, so Conga generated an email template for us by grabbing this specific email template ID that we told Conga to use, and then below is attached, and below is our PDF letter attached here. And there is our letter. So we can hit send and send off our letter. Alright, so those are all the parameters I wanted to show you guys today. It's kind of our top 10 or top grouped parameters that we find our customers most commonly use to help them further streamline their process for their end users. This helps the end user save time, and you can be worry-free that your end users aren't choosing the wrong template, and that they're able to log an activity, generate the right output file type. So by using all these parameters, that really helps streamline your process with using Conga Composer. So I'm going to go ahead and head back to my PowerPoint here, and we'll go ahead and see what questions we have. One question we have is, what happens when you are using the Google Visible parameter? When you're generating that Google Doc, where does it go? Is it being saved or stored somewhere? That's a great question. I can actually show you that. Well, each time we've been running our Conga Composer solution with that Google Visible populated, it's been logging it here in our Conga Documents tab, in our Conga folder here. It's been logging, it logged our PDF documents that we created, and then once we turned on the Google Visible to create the Google Docs, each time we did that, or each time we ran the solution, it was logging it here into our Google Drive. So this is kind of where it all lives. It's just under that Conga folder, unless you create a special file path for your documents to be stored in. We do have a parameter for this process. It's called OFP, stands for Output File Path. So basically, you can create a file path of where you want these documents to be stored. So that's a really good question. Another good question is, can I use other document types for templates besides Word? Yes, that is a great question. So Conga Composer can support Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, and HTML email templates. So that's a great question. Another question is, why do you have to use the API field name when using master field to set? Why not just refer to a regular field? That's a great question. So when using the master field to set parameters, you have to use an API field name so that Conga will recognize this process. Conga does not know how to update just a regular field, so calling out the API field name communicates to Conga the specific field we want to update. So really great question. Another question is, where can I access the Google Drive parameters? Excellent question. I'd actually like to point you guys to our support page. I'm just going to quickly drag this over for you guys. So if you visit our Conga support page, you have access to our knowledge base, which has a variety of different articles. It also has our documentation along with our quick start videos, our webinar registration, and our webinar archives. So to access the index of parameters, you'd click here. And from in here, we've got our parameters sorted out by categories. If you're specifically looking for our Google Drive parameters, you could click here, and this will pull up an article for you listing out all of the options and functionalities using those Google Drive parameters. So this is pretty helpful if you're just getting started building those. Also, another great tool to use too at this time, if you're new to upgrading to Release 8, if you go to our documentation page here, and access our release notes. If you visit the documentation tab and select on our release notes, you'll have access to just a very detailed outline of all the new features and functionalities in Conga Composer Release 8. So it reviews everything from the new Conga template builder and that user interface to using the Google Drive parameters. So this is pretty helpful, and I definitely encourage you to check this out if you are new to Conga Composer Release 8. Another good place to go if you are just upgrading would be to go to our recorded webinars here, and you'll have access to the webinar archive, which is where we'll store today's session. But if you scroll down here to advanced topics, we've got a webinar on what's new in Composer Release 8 and also how to upgrade to Composer Release 8. So definitely check those articles out if you are in the process of upgrading. They're very helpful. I'd like to point out some helpful resources. So if you are just getting started with Conga, we definitely encourage you to check out our Conga University. So Conga University is a learning hub for all things Conga. So take advantage of becoming a Conganeer. What you can expect with Conga University is training services on how to leverage Conga applications. Our courses are online and instructor-led, and it's an interactive way to learn how to make the most out of your Conga investment. So we definitely encourage you to check that out. And again, you can go to our Congasphere, which is our support page, where you have access to the webinar archive and index of Conga Composer Parameters. We also have our quick start guide. So these are videos on how to get started with building your first Conga solutions, to gathering data, using reports, and creating sophisticated documents. So we definitely encourage you to check those out. And then the documentation is always helpful. It's step-by-step guide on how to configure Conga Composer into just how to create the templates, all very helpful information. And if you're curious to see how some of our other customers are using Conga, we definitely encourage you to check out our Conga customer use cases. Those are pretty cool to see what everyone's using them for. And then as always, if you ever get stuck or you just want to talk to a live person, please do call us. We've got our US office here, we've got our UK office listed, and our Australian office listed. So don't hesitate to call us. So this webinar was a part of our ongoing webinar series. We do have other webinars, such as getting started with Conga Composer, exploring the Conga template builder, creating Word templates, Conga Composer and e-signature solutions, and many more to come. Just watch out for that schedule that's listed for where you registered for this current webinar, and get signed up for more of our webinars. So we hope you enjoyed today's session. Thanks for joining us, and a recording will be available in our webinar archive, and I'll also post questions and answers that we received throughout today's session. So thanks again for your time today. We hope you have a great day.